this time. So greetings. My name's Terry Parker. I'm the current president of the League of Women Voters of Lane County. I welcome you all on this bright, sunny day. I'm going to start with a few announcements and then introduce our guest speaker, Charleen, the Lane County Executive Director of Head Start. So again, thank you for coming. Jody Emmons is with us today. Jody is a guest. Thank you, Jody. Nice. Oh, a member. Thank you for that. Welcome, everyone. On your tables, there are a few items. I just want to. You can take those with you. The index cards are to write questions so that when we gather and do the question and answer session, we'll be reading from those cards. So if you think of a question that comes up during Charleen's speech, you can, or presentation, you can write those down and then we'll collect them. And I also put a piece on email fraud alert. We have had email fraud come through the League's email, and we just want to keep reminding you there are a lot of resources out there in terms of what to look for. This is just kind of a reminder in terms of it may look like me, but if the email really isn't an official email, you can stop right there. So again, just some reminders. There's some really interesting language around phishing scams. So the process is for a phishing attack is typically follows these 3 steps. They lure you in, they hook you, and then I think they must land you. Oh, they catch you. So as a daughter of a commercial fisherman, I understand all of those things. So anyway, take a look at that, take a copy. MB, welcome, come on in and sit down. So another new member. So Project Head Start launched as an 8-week summer program of the Office of Economic Opportunity in 1965. Some of you might be able to remember that. It was designed to help break the cycle of poverty by providing preschool children of low-income families with a comprehensive program to meet their emotional, social, health, nutritional, and psychological needs. Head Start of Lane County is a nonprofit organization that serves age and income eligible children and families as the Head Start grant recipient in our county. And they offer early Head Start home base, extended day and combination services, Head Start part day and extended day services, Head Start full day and end-year childcare. There are 7, I just learned this, so there are 7 educational regions throughout Lane County, covering 4,620 square miles. This design streamlines services in a family-friendly way. Decisions are made at the lowest level, and parents have a primary contact person to build relationships and strong partnerships. Each educational region oversees approximately 100 children and families and 20+ staff members. This is no small task. What I had to say to Charleen as we first met is, you've got a big job. And she certainly does. She has been doing this work for a number of years, first as our operational manager and now as the executive director. And we can't thank her enough for taking care of children, truly giving them a head start in the world and in our county. Thank you, Charleen, for coming.
All right. Well, you could have done this presentation. That was awesome. Aha. It's a good website. Well, good morning. What a beautiful day. I drove over here with my window rolled down, and that's been a long time coming, and absolutely loved it. This is a cute little area. I didn't know what was back here, so thank you for inviting me here. Now I get to brag about what I got to see over here, too. So I am going to do a little presentation, slideshow as I talk up here. But I do want to say my name is Charleen Strauch, as in, wow, there's Charleen Strauch. If you look at my last name, people always ask me that, so. I have been working for Head Start of Lane County for 15 years. I actually started out as an associate teacher, which I loved because all I had to do was play with kids, wash the tables, sweep the floors. And then all of a sudden they're like, hey, why don't you apply for this job? And I'm like, okay. And here I am. So I do think the operations director position prepared me for this executive director position, because in the operations director position, your whole job was to make sure that agency was running, right? With transportation, food service, technology, and that facilities. So it kind of gave me a big, broader sense of what Head Start of Lane County does. In this position, I actually am stepping into the footsteps of somebody who sat in the executive position for 43 years. Yeah, wow, I was right, people. Wow, I was right. They were big shoes to fill. She was really a pioneer as far as Head Start is concerned, not only locally, but at the state, but also national level. And lucky for me, I had a great mentor in that. So I love this job. I love the work that we do. I love the impact that we have on families in our community, but I'd sure like to talk a little bit more about this. So, I'm not sure how I get this up here on the screen. Can we see anything? Well, I'm not able to get this up on the screen. She's looking at me like, what? How long has this organization been going? 105 years? A little bit longer than I am, older than me. Oh, wow. 30s. Well, while you're... Okay. While we are trying to get this going, I'll talk to you a little bit. Head Start, Head Start has been since 1965, the War on Poverty. We are now celebrating our 60th birthday. Older than me, by the way. I say that at the all staff, right? And I'm talking to kids that were not even born during that time. Their grandparents are that age. So when I say that, I get this sort of like, oh, wow, yeah, you're not that old. Okay, great. But on May 18th will be its 60th birthday. We're pretty excited to celebrate that. I think that's a huge milestone to be operating for 60 years through a lot of change in decades of not only presidencies, different political viewpoints, different political climates. I think it's pretty substantial that we're still standing. And I have to say, we'll get there. We'll get there. I have a mic in my hand. I'll be fine. I'll be fine. I like a good mic. How many of you know about Head Start? Raise your hand. Oh, wow. You studied it? Wow. You did? Oh, wow. Well, then I hope I can speak to what you learned. So we know that it started in 1965 in the War on Poverty. And I think the piece about Head Start that I love a lot is that it kind of came about at the same time as the Civil Rights Movement, which, well, I restarted it. Yep. Which I think is a pretty substantial sort of connection about Head Start, is that civil rights piece of it. Ooh, okay. Yeah, I can take a break. Sure. Because this presentation's really great. We got something here. I think I love this presentation because it has really cute pictures of kids. I don't know about you, but I like a cute picture of a kid. So let's see if this will restart. I'm hoping it will. So when you say you studied early childhood in Lane County, what does that mean?
So you all can help me with this, but one of the things that the League of Women Voters does is that when we have two parts of our organization, we have kind of like what you would traditionally think of as voter service, voter registration, voter rights, elections, encouraging people to vote. And then on the other side, we actually take positions. But in order to take a position, we study it, we review it, we build consensus on it. And actually, we will go to a state conference this next month, am I correct with that? That looks at making a position on childcare. And because the world that you live in has changed so much, particularly since COVID, we felt like last year that we really needed to develop into, really look at what was happening and also the lack of services and look at that as a potential position for legislative action.
All I got to say is you just did my whole entire presentation. So that's great. That's fantastic. Is there, I mean, what's the parameters to be part of this group?
We would love to have you be part of it.
Yeah, I guess, is there an age restriction? I mean, none? Okay.
We start at age 16, if I'm correct, but we also are encouraging youth involvement. So we do have some high school students right now that are joining. And then both men and women are invited and other. So anybody can join us. We'd love to have you as part of our group. And I just can't get this thing to hold up.
That's all right. Ah, look at that. See? That's a cute picture. We did not want to miss that picture. All right. We'll go ahead and start this from the beginning. So sounds like you've done more research than, I just want you to look at that cute picture, right? So every picture that's in this slideshow is actually from our agency. So as I said, that we are turning 60 years of age as of May 18th, which again is one of those huge, huge milestones that we are extremely proud of. I do want to kind of talk about our building blocks. That's what those are called. And there's a reason why I think it's important to understand what these building blocks are. It's not just a logo, there's reason behind it. So the logos represent basically the early childhood building blocks, right? Your stereotypical, we're playing blocks with kids. You have the two squares that are actually positioned that way as to represent some sort of a ladder out and up. The two stripes there represent the child and the parent, and the arrow up is representing the journey out of poverty and hopefully up into some sort of new future for the family. And the red, white, and blue, of course, is representation of the United States and, of course, the many opportunities that are provided for people that live in the United States. I like to talk about the building blocks. Every single Head Start uses this building blocks for a reason. Like I said, it's not just a logo, it really is representation of what we do. History of Head Start, there was a cute little video there, but that's all right because you covered it and you studied it. Nicely done on your parts. 1965, right? We're out of poverty. Job Corps came out of that. There's a couple other great agencies that came out of that particular piece as well. So, you know our core values of who we are? We serve birth to the age of 5. That's the entire umbrella of Head Start, which encompasses Head Start and Early Head Start, which is your pre-K classroom, and pregnancy up to age of 3. So it's now encompassing of both. Like I said, I love this piece about the Civil Rights Act and how we kind of came out of that, and I always like to talk about it. I think it's an important piece for us and who we are, because it really talks about delving in deeply into those sort of inequity. I like to refer to it helping those that are furthest away from opportunity, because I think that's a different way of saying it. And I'll be honest with you, in many conversations with parents, they like that better too. Right? So we always refer to it as those furthest away from opportunity, and what we're trying to do is give them that pathway, that door, and having somebody stand at their side in order to get there. In 1969, Migrant Seasonal Head Start, tapping into a population of people that are inside of the United States, very low-income families. There's a lot of migrant seasonal Head Start programs. The biggest one here in Oregon is Albina, which is outside of Portland. And then the parent. I love the parent piece. Head Start believes that the parent is the child's first and most influential teacher. So in 1970, the parent manual was published, clarifying the role of the parent and the community in what we do. So this is how this plays out. We have a board of directors, and on our board of directors, we have very specific people have to sit on our board. We have a fiscal person, so they have to be a CPA and an accountant. We have a lawyer. We have to have somebody in early childhood education and or early intervention. Then we have a community member, realtor, and or contractor. They can be one and the same. And then we always have somebody that sits at just a community member. And then we have a parent that sits on that. So that's one governing body. The second is our policy council. The policy council is our parents. So if you've done your history, you know that when Head Start was developed, it was all encompassing around the parent, right? So this particular board, the Policy Council, is a board. It runs like a board. It has a chair, a vice chair, secretary, treasurer. Their job is to run it as a business. So everything that we do runs through this Policy Council. Every job description, every hire, every policy. They look at the budget. We're in the middle of our 5-year grant right now. Yeah, it's due in 3 days. No stress, no stress. That went through the Policy Council, and they had to approve it, right? We look to the parents to say, tell us what we are not doing well and what we need to do better. Because this program is for you, not for me, for you. Which I think is what sets us aside from most other early childhood environments. And I would go to the school districts. Some feedback that we've seen from parents is when they come into Head Start with us, we are walking them through everything they need to do, right? We're standing by them, we're encouraging them, we're telling them how to advocate for themselves, how to advocate for their child. You know, we're there every step of the way, and what we have heard is when they step into the public school system, that looks a lot different, right? But I think it's one of those very, very strong pieces that we have as far as Head Start is concerned. In fact, I'm just going to brag a little bit, our current board chair was a parent of ours. She was an actual addict, had to go to jail, had her kids taken away. We worked with her through that whole entire process. She went to school, got her master's, and now she is working to become a lawyer, right? So to me, those are those successes that just shows the dynamics of what we do. In 1972, 10% of national enrollment was set aside for children with disabilities. We sit at about a 25% right now in our classrooms. We have kids that have feeding tubes, wheelchairs, severe diabetics, because we believe every child should be served. In 1977, Carter administration began the bilingual, bicultural programs in 21 states. You see now in all of the states. And here's another one of my favorites. Sesame Street. Sesame Street and Head Start. Head Start was one of the main reasons that Sesame Street kind of exists. And I love that because I grew up on Sesame Street. So the other thing about Head Start, I think, is that it really shaped and defined what preschool programs look like. But we're more than just preschool, right? Guess you did your homework. You know, it's just not preschool. Present day, we have about 1,600 programs across the United States, serving over 150,000 children from low-income families. We talked about the ages 5 to birth to 5. Every state, every territory, including Puerto Rico and some tribal nations as well. The Office of Head Start budget is about $12 billion per fiscal year. And this is where that economical piece I like to talk about, and I'll throw it in here through the presentation. We employ over 225,000 staff and teachers. In our county alone, for Head Start of Lane County, we employ almost 300 staff. So when I think about the economical impact Head Start has on our communities, it's the employment of almost 300 people in our own communities. I also think about the leases we pay, gas we buy, the food we buy. The money that we put back into the community as well, I think is something very important for us to understand, that exists outside of all the other amazing work we do. A couple other pieces I think it's important to understand is that federally we are only funded at 80% of our funding, which means we have to find the other 20%. And that other 20% of our budget has to come from our community, other resources. And I think what Oregon has above a lot of other states, there's probably a good handful of other states that are duly funded. And that means they're funded at the federal level and they're also funded at the state level. So we're funded at the state level, which makes up that 20% for us, which means we don't necessarily have to go out into a community that's already saturated with people needing resources and be able to meet that necessary 20%, which I think is lucky for us, especially during this climate. And what I mean by that is, let's say they cut at the federal level, we'll still have those state slots, but we'll get to that a little bit later. So here we are, Head Start of Lane County. We started here in this county in 1974. At that time, we put 500, I think it was 363 that we were serving at that time. We are now just up to 800. 2 years ago, right out of the pandemic, we were serving up to 1,200 families in this county. After the pandemic, we saw a drastic drop in families that we wanted to serve. And then throughout that, there were some necessary cuts we had to make due to being under-enrolled because families were not coming back to classrooms. The feds then came back to say, okay, if you're not serving all these families, we want that money back. Okay. So now we're serving just up to 800 kids within our own community here, which I think is really important to understand as well. You spoke so great. You did your homework. I love this. I don't even really need to talk about this slide because you did a fantastic job. This really kind of talks about the different models we have here in our county. So what it does is Head Start is trying to meet the family's need to where they're at. Some families only want 3.5 hours a day, right? Some families actually need that 10-hour day program because they're trying to either go to work or get themselves through some sort of college program. So the reason why we have all these different models is really to really specialize the services for our families that we have in our county. I think the other thing to understand that we have a research-based curriculum. Like we are required to do a curriculum with kids. We are required to do assessments with our children, and we are required to test them at the preschool age. You will not find another preschool program in this county that does the same thing. We have to do that work in order to get our funding. But what it does is it shows, are we doing the work to get the kids up there in their cognitive skills? Are we getting kids up there in their mathematical skills? Are we getting kids up there into their reading skills in order to successfully transition into kindergarten? Because that's ultimately one of the things we want to do, right? Kindergarten readiness, that's what we do. So we have to go through, twice a year, we do our internal process where we assess all our kids, and then we are assessing them through the federal funders and their particular assessment tool. And again, we say it's not just about preschool. We also have staff called our family service advocates who are assisting families in emergency intervention. So that could be just finding food, clothing, shelter, housing assistance, so utilities, subsidies, repairs. We actually have what we call a housing specialist on staff, and she works with our families, and we do have them, families that are unhoused. So we do serve families in their cars. We do serve families that are living down by the river in the trees. We meet them where they are. That's where we're serving them. This particular position of what she does is she tries to help them find housing. And she has been successful. But she partners with Homes for Good in St. Thomas and some other Catholic community services. So she does a lot of partnering with them in order to make that happen as well. We do mental health services. We do finance education, debit education. And then we also have a registered nurse on staff. So within 45 days of a child starting with us, they have to have a vision and hearing screening completed. Within 90 days, we have to make sure that a complete wellness visit has been done. I can tell you, our nurse, she's a rock star. She can run circles around me. I don't know how she does it, but she does do it. She's serving our child who's on a feeding tube, and then she's ensuring that this child over here is getting new teeth in her mouth. Quick story about that one, because I like to tell stories. We served this one family. Dad was arrested for selling drugs. Mom was in rehab. Their child was feral, age of 3, feral. All their teeth were rotting out. We worked with this family for 3 years. Watched mom go through rehab 3 times. On the 3rd time, mom came out, successfully clean. We were able to get the child to the dentist, receive funding in order to help either replace some of those teeth and just really redo all that dental inside of it. And then when dad came out of prison, they were no longer together, but worked together in order to support this one child. I can tell you right now, child has graduated with honors. Dad is a repairman on airplanes, and mom is receiving her lawyer degree, right? Yeah, celebration is right? And it's because of what we're able to do, where the resources are, how to find these resources, how to help these families, and also how to meet people and not make them feel just because you're in the situation you're in that you don't deserve to have a better life. We have some of the most compassionate people that work for our agencies, the biggest hearts you'll ever find. Cute little picture here. This is one of our dental visits here. We partner with Lane County Dental. They come in and they meet every single child in every single classroom. They do an oral exam with them, teach them how to brush, and if they don't have a toothbrush, make sure that they have it with them. And I can tell you, that's fun. I put this one here for a reason. It reminded me of this. The other thing is we partner with the U of O and Oregon Research Institute. And they have done a lot of research based with us at Head Start of Lane County. And let me give you an example of what I mean by that. Currently, they're doing a program they have been for the last 5 years working with women postpartum depression. And they've created a program that is an app for them, coaching with them to help kind of that process of getting out of that postpartum depression and what we need to do to put the supports in place that is now being nationally recognized across the nation. So we love our partnership with them. Not just because they're ducks. So the other thing we do is this. This is called our Seekers program. Seekers program, if I can get this popped up just right. That's all right. Seekers program stands for Specialized Education Oh, if I could just get it. I can never memorize it. I always do it. Specialized employment efforts keep education running smoothly. That's what it stands for. It's a program we started 10 years ago. And what we do is we invite any caregiver or parent who is curious about this. For a school year-long process, they are going through an education classes done by us. All of the area content specialists inside our agency, they do classes with them. The parent or caregiver has to do 120 hours volunteer inside the classroom. We've worked with the employment department, but also the state department. We have to be licensed through the state of Oregon in order to operate. And with that comes a nice booklet of things we have to make sure happens, which is great, right? One of those pieces is that any adult working with a child has to meet certain expectations in order to meet that, right? So they have to understand what it means to teach a child, to keep them safe. With this program, those parents meet those criteria and are able to be employed. As of when this program started 10 years ago, I think we've employed up to 120 people in our program. A couple of them have moved on to public schools, all thanks to us educating them, though, right? So I think that's a highlight. I really like to highlight that program because what it also meets, I think what it also meets is when we talk about the child care crisis, it's another way for us to figure out how are we going to find staff in order to run these classes. So it was our answer, not completely answered because we're still struggling, but it was one of our answers to say, well, this is how we can take this by the horns and do it ourselves, right? Yeah, come on. That's a cute picture, right? So inside, we have a registered dietitian and a nutritionist. Our meals are homemade. Every single one of them are homemade. So it's homemade spaghetti. It's fish, it's rice, it's broccoli, right? It's not hot dogs or corn dogs. We're talking meals. And just to brag a little bit, about 8 years ago, we were in Eugene Foodies. Just FYI, okay? And the other thing we know, though, that's very crucial about the meal service is that for some of these kids, this is the only time they're going to be eating. So if the only thing we can do is invite that child into our classroom, giving them shelter for a few hours and feeding them, we've done our job. Because if you can feed a child nutritious food, that's going to help the brain, which is what we need. We also do cooking classes. We help parents start gardens. We work with our CSAs out there in order to get parents in there. It's a great program. And then, that's our nurse, that's Val. She's intense, people. We love her. Pre-pandemic, or pandemic, what we found is that we had families that, because they could not leave their home, were not getting food. So we created this program with DoorDash to have food boxes delivered to their homes. We have partnered with Food for Lane County, and we're still doing that. We have a pantry also where parents can come in and get those necessary needs. It's a pretty phenomenal program, and they're starting to implement that across the state as well. I do want to talk a little bit politically, where we're at politically. Yes, I'm going to put cute pictures up, because you need to see these cute pictures. Yes, look at those. This was on a day kind of like this. That's some infant toddlers right over here. We have gardening at all of our sites. And if you don't know kids, water play, crucial. But I do want to kind of talk about it, where we're at politically right now, because I think it's important to understand. We're kind of in a place where it feels a little uncertain for us, not just us, for a lot of people. I do have to say the strength of Head Start is that we have bipartisan support. We always have. That's our strength. Because I do think they realize that the work that Head Start does is not about Democrat or Republic. It is about our kids at the very basic level. So lucky for us, we do have that bipartisan support. But I think we're kind of in a place right now where things are feeling really uncertain. Information is happening at just happening all the time, and you don't know what is what. You can't keep up. And I can tell you this, we are funded through the Office of Head Start federally, and they are the people that we look to for our guidance. When new stuff is coming out, we look to them for our guidance. And since January, they have been radio silent. So when the new executive orders have been coming out, we are saying, how are we supposed to be doing this work right now? What are you expecting from us? We're not getting that guidance. So you have people out there right now that are feeling they're feeling a little scared, people. They're feeling a little nervous. I told you the story that I happened to be in Washington, D.C. in January when the freeze on the federal grants came out. I was in a room with over 600 Head Starts people from across the nation. We were scheduled to go to the Capitol the next day. And when the news was delivered, you felt the life just for a moment get sucked out of the air. But then I got to witness some of the most amazing people just go to action and advocating and speaking out in order to ensure that these programs are still moving forward. So I really truly believe that the voice of the person is crucial, and the voice of the people is crucial, and to utilize it whenever you can. Because what we saw was that springing into action. But right now, budgetarily, we're told that we have a budget until September, but we don't know what that means after that. The other thing we're hearing is the presidential budget that's supposed to be out, I think, in May, could result in some cuts. When people ask me, what do you know? This is what I know. This is the information that's being given to you. Usually I have a lot more, but right now that's just kind of where we're at with what we're doing. I think that's what's leaving most people feeling a little unsettled right now. But here's the thing I keep telling our agencies. I also sit as the president for the Oregon Head Start Association as well. The same message I send out to them is don't get caught up in the chatter right now, right? When time comes, they will tell us what we need to do. Head Start's been going on for 60 years through a lot of different presidencies, right? A lot of different administrations, through a lot of change. We know how to be resilient. We know how to be flexible. And we do continue to move on. Our families desperately need us not to get caught up in the chatter. Our families desperately need to get us in doing the work we know how to do. What I need to do is meet people like you, right? Because when it comes right down to it, when I think about the voice of our community, it's people like you that speak up on behalf of agencies like Head Start and the necessary need for our communities out there. Because I really do believe that what Head Start does is very specialized than any preschool program you're going to find. And I do think the impacts, and I can tell you stories beyond stories, of success of families coming out. We had two parents. I'm going to tell you two more, and I'm done, I swear. One of them was declared that she would be on disability for the rest of her life with her child. She would never be able to succeed, hold down a job. Went through our Seekers program. She was kind of quiet. But towards the end, she started to talk a little bit more, ask more questions. These parents are required to do 120 hours, I believe it is, inside the classroom. She did 260. Went through the program. We hired her as associate teacher. We also provide, part of our budget we set aside is to help fund staff to go back to school. She applied for that job. She got an associate. She got her bachelor's, and she's finishing up her master's right now. Yeah, it's wow. A second one, similar story, she's on now, finally, sorry, it just makes me so happy, is that she's applying for her doctorates, right? We have staff who never thought they would, we are funded at a poverty level. Our staff work at a poverty level, right? We have staff that through everything that we offer in Head Start, and we have parents that are able to buy their very first home. To me, those are success, right? To me, those are the things we need to keep cherishing and telling the story of. So I thank you. That's what I have. I could go on, but they tell me to stop. So thank you.
I just can't thank you enough for the good work that you do in the world. It's just fantastic. Another hand. We're gonna collect a few questions. I have one. Does the bureaucracy get in your way? Take up too much of your bandwidth?
Is this recorded? No, it is recorded. Okay. So, yes. I'm just going to say yes. I think you have to understand that Head Start has over, I think, up to 1,000 performance standards we must meet federally. And then at the state level, we have licensing regulations, and sometimes they compete with each other. So when you ask, does the bureaucracy get in our way? Absolutely, because when our teachers are in their classroom and they have to ensure that they're signing in a child properly, I got the proper time in it, that their documentation is in order, what does that do? It takes time. It takes them away from what they really should be doing. And that is engaging children in play, which actually is engaging children in growth and learning, right? As far as somebody in my position, yeah. Sometimes trying to get an answer and response in order for us to move forward. An example, our hot water tank blew. We had to close down classroom. To ask the feds in order for us to spend money can take weeks. Sometimes it gets in our way. Yes.
Yes, the switch is right over there. Maybe March, you hit the bottom there. We'll work on that. Oh, this is, you just need to go to the website because it's really full of information. And one of the things that didn't show up was how many Head Start schools in Lane County, how many in Eugene, where are they? One of the things I was really impressed is to look at the breadth of services throughout Lane County.
Yeah, that's a great question because we do serve all the way from Oak Ridge down to Florence, Junction City. Unfortunately, we were not able to serve down on South Lane. We just can't find a location down there. We were in the school district, but they kicked us out because they needed the classroom. So we have, I think, last time I checked, 21 sites across Lane County. Within Eugene alone, they're all over. We're at Howard Elementary. We're at the old Whitaker School. That's our building now. We're at the U of O. We're in LCC. We're in Ross Lane, which is a housing development. Am I missing something here as I'm driving through? I'm driving in my mind right now. We are going to be opening up. We did a partnership with Homes for Good, and we're opening up that sort of dual housing, 81 low-income housing with a 6-classroom center. I've been working with them for a long time. If you have not driven past Chavez, take a look. We're hopefully going to be in there in beginning of September, I think. So, yeah.
What agency is Head Start housed in the federal government? Is it the Department of Ed?
That's an excellent question. That's a very, very good question. Now, we're under the Health and Human Services at this point. So when they talk about anything in the Department of Ed, a little bit deeper breath there for us because we're housed differently. So I do want to say that Terry is right. If you haven't visited our website, hsolc.org, please do. It's a fantastic website. I get people whenever I go to national conferences, when I say where I'm from, they're like, oh, I visit your website all the time. You got such a great website. And we really do. We have a great team that put that information up there. So.
Well, I have another story that you can tell. So one of the things that I think came up at some point, you'll have to tell this story, that maybe Ohio published an article that said something's good happening in Lane County Head Start. Do you remember this? Yeah, so one of the things that I understand is replication is really one of the great ways to know that you're doing a good job. And so here's somebody in the Midwest or another part of the country that is copying the work that Lane County is doing. It was in your LinkedIn site.
I told you, I'm not quite 60, but still, there's things happening at my age of 55 that does things to my memory sometimes. I do have to say one thing. I don't mean to sound like I'm bragging, but I am very excited about our program because I think we do amazing work. This Ollie Court is one of them. We sat on a national panel talking about this very program and how other people can replicate it in other states, because I think it makes the most sense, right, in my opinion. The housing specialists that we do, the same thing. We've talked nationally about the work that particular position is doing in order to support families and how we do it. And I can't remember this one. I'm looking. Do you remember what it was?
It was Ohio or something, and they just said good things are happening.
Boy, I'll tell you, I need a new brain, I think, memory.
Actually, again, success breeds success. If you've got a good program, people will see it and be able to learn from you as well. So it takes a village, obviously. What percentage of students in Lane County in your program are Latino? And I believe you do have bilingual programs? Yeah.
Boy, I don't have that data, actually. Maybe I might. I don't know if I have that data with Latinos. I want to say Latinos, our percentage is, I think, at like 18%. I think it is. I don't have that. I think that's right. I think that's right around where we're at. And we have programs we are ensuring that within our programs that we have somebody in there that does speak that child's home language, right? And here's the interesting thing about, that learning piece of language, especially with your early Head Start kiddos, is they're just trying to develop language in itself, right? So if you have a kiddo whose home language is not English, how do you support that so they don't lose that, number one? But number two, it's pretty fascinating to watch their growth pattern compared to a child whose only English is their first language. It's pretty phenomenal stuff, so.
All those little brain synapses open to the world. Do you have plans to celebrate the 60th anniversary, and how will you promote that? And will it include fundraising? There's concern that state funding reductions are expected too.
Yes. Yeah. Boy, you are good. You are good. You have great questions. Yeah. You know what? I talked a lot about feds, but we do need to talk about state. I just testified, I think, 3 weeks ago in front of a committee to talk about trying to just keep us at flatlined baseline and not to cut because they're at a deficit at the state level too, right? And I think people need to be aware of that. We do talk about the federals because it's it's out there, right? But at our state level, there are worries that their funding will be cut as well. We're going to celebrate. We just had our March all staff last Friday. We were at venue 252, if you've ever been there. It's a pretty fun venue to have, and it was all about the birthday celebration then. And we had the entire 200, at that time, I think we had 228 people singing happy birthday to Head Start. So we got that filmed and recorded and posted that a little bit, and then what we're going to probably do is throw a big party. Your question about fundraising is an excellent question, because as Head Start employees, we are not allowed to do fundraising. I can't fundraise. Our teachers can't fundraise. That's where our policy council and our board come into play. One of the questions you said is, one of the things you asked this in an email to me, was what is one thing we could do? So there is, they used to have what they called Friends of Head Start of Lane County way back when. This is before my time. And it no longer exists. It was a group of community members that specifically were there to help with things like fundraising, to help with those things that we as employees receiving grants from the feds and the state are not allowed to do. That's one thing I'm trying to start up again, is that friends group, and would love anybody that's interested to be a friend. Well, you consider everybody a friend, but anybody that's interested in becoming the friends of Head Start in Lane County, that is one way to do it. Fundraising is a hard thing. There's a couple things I think about fundraising. We're also living in a county that I feel is kind of saturated with a lot of asks out there. However, I also believe not enough people really truly understand what Head Start of Lane County does. And getting that voice out and having people help us really educate our community around that, advocate for us in our community, and also at the state level, that's what we're needing as well.
Charleen, can you confirm that you have funding through May? I thought you said September was the date you...
Confirmation is what you need. I do too, right? At this point, what we know is we're funded for sure through September. What I just heard yesterday, so we're funded through the Office of Head Start. We also have a National Head Start Association. So the association is there to kind of say, hey, we're here to support you. What do you need from us? But they're in the same boat. The partners that they collaborated at the Office of Head Start are not necessarily forthcoming with information. What we heard about May is the possible cuts in the president's budget. That's all we heard. So are we going to be funded? Are we not? I can't answer that one way or the other. I would like to think we have, because I do have to say, in Trump's first administration, he actually helped funding with Head Start. So I'm just keeping my fingers crossed that that's the same path that we're gonna follow. But that's as much information as we have as far as that funding piece is concerned, because we're not being given the information necessary that we need as well.
Last question. What's your current relationship with self-sufficiency and child welfare?
Child welfare, DHS, we partner with them a lot, right? Because we do have families that are sitting within the system. We also have staff members that sit on their citizen review board. We partner very, very well with them. I do think I would love to see us do more work with them, because I think we sometimes duplicate the things that need to be done for our families out there. So, great questions, by the way. Thank you.
We've got a lot of thinkers in the room. Thank you so much. Thank you again. I picked out a few things to thank you, and these are a couple of my personal favorites. If you haven't, I'm a knitter. If you haven't read this book, Extra Yarn, it's a great book for kids, and maybe you'll get some knitters out of it. And then this one reminds me of my puppy Lupa, because it's about a little white poodle called Antoinette. She's a bit of a rascal, as is my dog, and it's one of my other favorites. Yeah, thank you. Thank you again. You do great work. We love it. I have a couple other just announcements before we go. Is we had the opportunity, a small group of us, to kind of on the spur of the moment go tour, look out local, Eugene Springfield. Their office is downtown on 7th. Am I correct, on 7th? It's a beautiful building. It has incredible resources. And the person that we talked to, Amanda, is very interested in working with local nonprofits such as the Eugene Public Library and ourselves. We talked about civic education. We just had really a great, so fingers crossed that their rollout can be successful and that we can have a relationship with them going into the future. So that was really great. I also want to thank Sharon. Ruth is absent, Sharon Posner, for organizing, even though she was traveling, to get us to meet with the Springfield Chamber of Commerce. We met with Bonnie Mickelson, had a great hour discussion. It's really nice to be in Springfield. Our office is there, not far away from that historic railroad building. And I have a handout from Springfield if anybody is interested in that information. And I also want to thank Beatrice. Beatrice over here. Beatrice has really been the mover and shaker behind our new effort to get our Observer Corps up and running again after a hiatus. We actually have some really great observers and reporters. We sent out our first newsletter. It's an email newsletter. We did it on the fly, partly because the reports were coming in so fast and furious. We wanted to get it out before it was old news. But we would like some feedback about that. We called it the Sunshine Report. We just kind of picked that out of the air because of sunshine laws. But if you have any information or questions or ways that you might want to participate in that effort, it's really the idea, if the league is in the room, keeping our elected officials honest, supporting them, because their work is hard. Anybody who steps up to do that work is to be commended, but we also want to make sure that our watchdog ears and eyes are on elected officials to make sure they're serving us in the way that we think makes for open, honest, and factual exchange in a civil society. So again, thank you very much. Have a wonderful afternoon out there. Enjoy the sunshine. Sharon has one more announcement. Sharon, you're going to need to use the mic. Always.
There, that's much better. Since Terry brought it up, I thought I would just follow through to see if there's anyone here who has any ideas of who else they might like to hear from Springfield. I haven't got the speaker for this next month yet, and I want to do this one in Springfield as well. So any ideas, please let me know.
Yeah, we've done a focus on Springfield in the last couple months. It's been really nice to be able to make sure that we're kind of making some rounds. And again, thank you all for coming. See you soon.